In the new age of artificial intelligence, there are a lot of developments happening every day. The government has come up with an amendment in the IT rules, that is Information Technology, Intermediary Guidelines and Digital Media Ethics Code. You must have read that. So there are few amendments which has been done in this particular IT rules in order to incorporate the challenges which we are facing with respect to artificial intelligence and stop this misinformations which are created due to the use of artificial intelligence. So we require some kind of a law whenever a content is generated with the use of artificial intelligence, that has to be labeled. Any content which is generated with the help of artificial intelligence, that content is basically called as synthetically generated information. Hello everyone, welcome to yet another current affairs session video. So in this video, we are going to discuss the new IT amendment rules of 2025. In the new age of artificial intelligence, there are a lot of developments happening every day. So we have seen that government has come up with the India AI mission of 2024, and government has also come up with respect to how we are going to implement that AI in governance. There are release of guidelines as well. But in this new age of artificial intelligence, specifically its aspect in governance is concerned, there are a lot of challenges what we are facing with respect to the idea of deepfakes. This is a very common thing which you must have seen. So this is where the government has come up with an amendment in the IT rules, that is Information Technology, Intermediary Guidelines and Digital Media Ethics Code. You must have read that. So there are few amendments which has been done in this particular IT rules in order to incorporate the challenges which we are facing with respect to artificial intelligence, right? So this has been released by Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, and these guidelines are operational since November 15th, 2025. So let's discuss what kind of amendments has been added in this particular IT rules in order to ensure that we are having a responsible use of artificial intelligence and people are well aware about how they can differentiate between an AI generated content and a real content. That is a major challenge what we are facing. So let's discuss, because this is something very important, because the artificial intelligence has both aspects. So coming down to the negative aspects of artificial intelligence, there are a lot of deep fakes which are circulating in the online social media platforms. So in order to stop this misuse of artificial intelligence in order to create deep fakes, we are coming with something called as these rules, because AI generated misinformation is creating a lot of problems in governance as well as in general to the ideas of society. So this is where they are targeting the social media intermediaries and systematically stronger, bigger social intermediaries, that how they are going to regulate the content which is there in their respective platforms. And that is something we are going to talk about, how safely we are going to use this artificial intelligence in this present scenario. So the deepfake challenge, all of we know that again, deepfakes creates a very thin line between truth and fabrication, and this has multifolds, in a multifold manner has affected the society. For example, there are a lot of content where again voice mimicking, there is a problem of, let's say, expressions, deep fake videos, everything can now be generated with the use of artificial intelligence. And there are some prominent examples which you must have seen in day-to-day newspapers, that again there are a lot of fake political speeches which are there. We see generally this phenomena during time of elections. We have seen morphed videos of women, which is again a big challenge which women are facing. Then there are financial scams happening. Then there is election misinformation. So there is an urgent need with respect to creating something called as any kind of a rules which is going to trace these contents and stop stop this misinformations which are created due to the use of artificial intelligence. So we require some kind of a law which is going to make the whole process more transparent and accountable. This is where this law has come into picture. So with respect to the IT rules, which was released by the government in the year 2021, it has went for a series of amendments. So the first amendment was with respect to in 2021, this rules was introduced in order to ensure that the online content is also regulated. So this IT rules was talking about how exactly we are going to moderate, or content moderation should happen, number one. Then it is also talking about how the OTT platforms are going to be regulated, because nowadays we are seeing the growing, let's say, influence or the growing development in the OTT sectors as well. Then how online news, because there are a lot of fake news as well. So how online news are going to be guidelined, and what kind of grievance redressal mechanism is going to happen with respect to any of these things happening in an let's say in an IT platform, right? So these rules has went for series of amendments. There was first amendment done in the year 2022, then in the year 2023, and now the recent one is 2025, which we are going to discuss. In 2022, you must have been remembering, there has been something called as fact check, that which news is correct, which news is fake. So there are a lot of fake news which are there, which were there. So government has amended this IT rules of 2021, which talked about that again we can fact check the current news. This was somewhere controversial of nature. Why? Because that if you understand again, the government was the one who's going to fact check a particular set of news. So again, it was somewhere coming in conflict with an ideas of freedom of speech and expression under Article 19 of the Constitution. In 2023, there is online gaming industries as well, right? So of course the recent government has come up with respect to complete banning of online financial games. So this was somewhere, let's say, reflected in the amendment of 2023, wherein the online games were also regulated under the IT rules of 2021. And the most recent one, the amendment which we are going to discuss today, is how exactly the content which is there in these online platforms which are AI generated have to be regulated. So in this, there has been few key definitions. Number one is the intermediary. So any entity which is storing, transmitting, or providing access to user generated data or content, they are called as intermediaries. Then there are social media intermediaries. There are a lot of social media platforms. We talk about Instagram, X, YouTube. So all of these platforms under the new guidelines are discussed as social media intermediaries. Then there are significant social media intermediaries, wherein there are some platforms or some social media platform which has a very large user base, right? So such platforms are designated or called as significant social media intermediaries under the new guidelines. Example, the Meta, Google, and Snapchat, for example. Then with respect to what exactly is this synthetically generated mis or information, SGI. So basically any content which is generated with the help of artificial intelligence, that content is basically called as synthetically generated information, because that is through the help of artificial intelligence, that is not real. So those content are being called as synthetically generated information under the new IT rules amendment. Clear? So this is any content, again let's discuss, which are algorithmically generated, altered, and modified using artificial intelligence, so or computer resources. They are called as SGIs, as for example. So maybe there are a lot of examples you see that again AI can generate a lot of content with respect to how you are giving him the let's say the kind of code, right? So this is where political speeches, videos, pictures, anything can be generated with the use of artificial intelligence. So, and in fact, the idea is that they look very realistic in nature. So these kind of content are called as synthetically generated information. So the new rule tells that whenever a content is generated with the use of artificial intelligence, that has to be labeled, so that a person who is the receiver of that particular information or content through the different online platforms should have an information that this content is something which has been generated with the use of artificial intelligence. We are clear on this? So here it tells ki every content should have a embedded permanent unique metadata identifier, so that again the source of that, let's say there is a deepfake video, how we can trace the source. Again, it's a big challenge, but again, this is some development which is happening in that particular area. So this metadata must reveal that the content is basically synthetically generated information. Clear? Number two, it also tells ki, let's say there is a visual content or an image what you are seeing. So if that content is generated with the use of artificial intelligence, it has to be mandatory labeled, and the 10% of the total surface area of that particular content should have an AI labeling, so that the final consumer of that particular content should have an awareness that this content is generated with the use of artificial intelligence. Now, there are a lot of videos as well, right, which are generated with the help of artificial intelligence. An example is, of course, the deepfake videos which we are seeing, right? So here the rules tell that again, if any video is made with the help of artificial intelligence, the first 10% of the video, of the total duration of that particular video, should have a clear labeling that this video is generated with the help of artificial intelligence, right? So these are mandatory things which has been put forward under this IT amendment rules of 2025, so that there is a very clear, visible and legible, so that again people many times to understand. There are a lot of if you go for some kind of advertisements wherein there are some kind of offers which are being going on, what do you see? There is a big banner with respect to which talks about a huge amount of discount, but again in the very small text, in very very star mark, it is being written that again there are terms and conditions. So this is where it has telling that again, with respect to AI generated content, there has to be 10% of the total surface area of that particular content should be labeled that again it is AI generated, right? So it cannot be removed, it cannot be edited, it cannot be suppressed or altered by any of the online platforms, right? Then with respect to why it is being labeled, of course, we have discussed this, that again, there are a lot of content which are circulating in these online platforms which do not have a clarity whether they are real, whether they are generated through the help of artificial intelligence. And this is where a lot of misinformation, mishappenings also happening due to this whole idea of artificial intelligence. I think you must have come across something called as digital arrests, wherein some person's voice is being generated which looks very real, right? And that is where there are fake digital arrests also happening. So these are all going to be somewhere coming into the domain of regulation with the IT amendments of 2025. So again, it is going to ensure the misinformations are going to be reduced and transparency is going to be created. It is going to make the platforms accountable, because of course there are a lot of content creators, a lot of posters of content in these platforms. We cannot regulate the person's intent why they are putting such content, but again the platform, at least in the very beginning of this area of, let's say, regulation of artificial intelligence, they could be held accountable. And this is where maybe we can start with respect to how we are going to regulate these kind of synthetically generated informations, right? So it is very helpful with respect to supporting the law enforcement, that how exactly we are going to track its misuse. So for here, what we have done, that again, as I discussed, there are significant social media intermediaries which has, so such kind of platform which has a very large amount of user base, right? So for that, what we have happened, that if any content you are generating, let's say if I am a creator of a particular video, if I am uploading my content in, let's say, any big social media platforms, then it is telling that that the platform should ask the content creator that the content video which you are uploading, is it real or is it generated with the help of artificial intelligence. That is the first basic thing. Is the content you are uploading synthetically generated or not? Now, it is very much difficult to track and to check which content is generated through the help of AI and which is a real content. So this is where the platforms are going to be using certain kind of automated tools in order to ensure that they can verify these kind of claims of the content creators who are uploading this kind of content, and it should have a very clear notification that these synthetically generated information should be prominently displayed with visible labels. Again, we have discussed this 10% of the video duration, or if it is a content of a picture, then again total 10% of the surface area should have an AI labeling. And then there is something that if these big social media intermediaries, if they are not adhering to these kind of rules and regulation, then they may lose their legal immunity under the IT Act, right? That is a basic idea how maybe, let's say, regulation is being done and how we are ensuring compliance with such kind of big social media intermediate that has been discussed over here, right? And you understand that again, whenever there are deep fakes or whenever there are content which are very inappropriate, which somewhere or somehow gets uploaded in these kind of platforms, there are rules or there are mechanisms through which those content can be removed, right? But again, there was no specific clarity, and anyone with respect to the removal of content was authorized to do so. So under the new guidelines, what has come up, so senior level authorization is required to take down order or take down the video or content from that particular platform. So only senior officers can issue removal orders for unlawful content. And who are those senior officers? They are of joint secretary level, that is central ministers, equivalent to the rank of state government, equivalent right, of course, in state governments, and deputy inspector of general, that is DIG or above. The purpose, of course, here is ki in any avoidance of arbitrary takedown orders, and in order to ensure that due process is being maintained whenever these content are being taken down. Because again, we need to ensure what? We need to ensure freedom of speech and expression as well, right? And this is where this has been incorporated in the new guidelines. Then with respect to challenges, that again, although we are using tools to detect that which content is generated with the help of AI, which is a real content, but there are few challenges which we might face. Number one is lack of benchmarks. So again, there is no universally accepted a mechanism or or let's say a rule or a standard that how we can differentiate between a real and a AI content. So again, this is where the chances of error might be high in the initial few phases of its implementation. Then scaling limitations, because understand, there are a lot of content creators, many contents are being, millions of contents are being uploaded on these platforms on a daily basis. So it would of course become very difficult to detect such huge amount of volume of synthetically generated information in these platforms. Number three is anonymity of creators, right? So content may have been generated not in India but in abroad. So we cannot, with these kind of platforms, there is a difficulty in, let's say, tracing the source of generation of that particular content. That is again a problem. Then interceptability, right? So AI tools generate very extremely realistic content. So again, that is also going to be a challenge in order to differentiate between SGI and a real content. And lastly, privacy and innovation balance, because metadata tracking may cause privacy concerns, right? That is something which is going to be discussed over here. Then with respect to how India currently, apart from these IT amendment tools, has been responding to the challenges which it is facing with respect to misuse of artificial intelligence. So Election Commission has come up with a advisory that again, any content which any of the political parties is using, which is generated with the help of artificial intelligence, they have to be labeled. That is number one. And any deepfake content which is there in these social media platforms, they have to be taken down within 3 hours of duration. And labeling like AI generated digitally enhanced synthetic content, it has to be there, so that awareness is there among the people that the content which these parties are showing, it is generated with the help of AI. Then we have DPDP Act, which talks about how privacy is going to be respected, because nowadays you understand AI is generating content deepfakes by using what? Let's say if I am a social media user, I have posted a content in my social media platform and someone else has an access to that content, and that content is being misused to generate any deepfake video of mine. So this is where the DPDP rules has also come up into picture, wherein it is making or ensuring that the private content without the consent of that particular person should not be used, and there are huge amount of penalties for such kind of a violation. Then we have I4C, that is Indian Cybercrime Coordination Center, which is tracking and acting against deepfake and online crime videos. We have CERT-in, which is ensuring security advisories for cyber threats and AI misuse. So these are some institutions' response of India with respect to fighting with the misuse of artificial intelligence. At a global level, we have EU AI Act, which is mandatory watermarking, that any content which is generated with the help of AI, it has to be watermarked. Then in China, AI labeling rules, again, very strict mandatory disclosure of any content which is AI generated. Then we have Denmark, wherein deepfake regulations are under digital copyrights law. Then in US, it is moving towards watermarking and transparency norms, that is the White House AIEO. All of these are the global standards that how many other countries are also regulating their online content with respect to the content which are synthetically generated informations. Then with respect to how we are going to go forward with this, right? So as of now, every country is going for their own regulation of online content, let's say online content which are AI generated. But again, nowadays, content generation is no longer a regional or a country-wise issue. Content is generated anywhere. So in order to track that, so deepfakes are there across cross borders as well, right? So national rules are insufficient if we want to trace the origin of that particular content. So we need a global consensus on how exactly we are going to have a watermark standards, how metadata signatures are going to be ensured in such content, how content traceability protocols should be there, and how cross-border takedown coordination, any content which is there in any platform, so it should not see the cross-border or the boundaries, right? So if content is very insensitive, that has to be removed. So that we need a global standards with respect to this. So this whole AI is no longer a problem of a country or a user or a single government. So for that, it is going to have a multi-stakeholder approach, that is government, tech industries, academia, civil society, users, all of these should collaborate together to use and to build a very ethical AI ecosystem which is going to be there in our country. So again, we are developing at a pace, but that development should not hamper anyone's, right? It should not, let's say, take out or bring in chaos in society, right? So this is where a responsible use of artificial intelligence is going to happen. Government is doing a lot of steps with respect to regulating these AI generated content, right? How governments also come up with AI guidelines, that again how we are going to use artificial intelligence governance. So there are a lot of developments going to come up with respect to the AI in governance. So please stay tuned for all such more videos. Till the very next time, all the very best.